Today. Welcome everyone. My name is Taurus Legend. Thank you so much for joining us in our April installment of the SAP BTP Garage Series. Today's session, we're going to be covering mastering solution diagrams, a step-by-step guide with new icons and best practices. With my colleagues, Fabian Lehmann, product manager at SAP BTP, and Lisa Pilarczyk, user experience design expert. They're going to be covering the details of that. Before we get started, can you switch to the next slide, Cecily? Okay, next one. So you will be sharing this information with you guys. So this just gives you a global outline of what today's mission is, which Lisa and Fabienne will go into a little bit more detail. So next slide, Cecily. So just want to let you guys know of I just want to let you guys know of some of our enablement initiatives. There's a monthly live session series, third Wednesday of every month. Ask Me Anything with our session, What's New with SAP BTP, also SAP InnoBytes, and Elevate Your Skills in the SAP BTP Garage. So if you're interested in joining any one of those, please feel free to join us in any one of those initiatives. Next slide, Cecily. Also, we're also hosting a monthly podcast, SAP BTP Talk, and our quarterly blog post, which is done every quarter, as the name implies, will be released very shortly. And finally, the SAP BTP monthly newsletter. If you're interested in signing up for that, please do so as well. Next slide. And then some of our ongoing hands-on and in-person workshops, the SAP Integration Suite for the European region, as well as the SAP DataSphere in Europe, and SAP Integration Suite on the 25th to the 27th. So if you're interested in registering for any of those, we will provide the links with the presentation material. Next slide. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Fabienne and Lisa to get us started with our mission.
So, perfect. Here we go. So welcome, a warm welcome from cold Berlin. Basically, that's where I'm located today. Today, we'll talk about the BTP solution diagrams and what has been going on in the past month. And it's all about crafting solution diagrams and a little bit of history and also our general approach. And it's me and Fabian today. And as Tara said, I'm a UX designer with some experience in user research, user experience, but also focus on visual design. And I'm currently the lead visual designer for SAP Discovery Center. And this is a connected topic. So this is why I'm also leading this topic from design side. And I will talk a little bit about our approach today, also about the design guideline. And then we'll hand it over to Fabian, who will talk a little bit about our newly released page and the GitHub repository, about tools, and who will give you a little bit of an interactive session as well today. So handing it over to Fabian for a few sentences about himself.
Yeah, right. My name is Fabian, right? I'm basically a BTP product manager, and also in the past was an architect, also in the consulting, also working at partner sites, therefore I have a bit experience, I would say, in regards to BTP, and we see it later also in the solution diagram. I'm also working with that. So, okay, hand over back to you, Lisa.
Exactly. So I think what's really interesting about the setup is that it's an interdisciplinary approach. I think it's not that common at SAP that we have experts from design field and technology field work together regularly and on this deep level where they share their expertise. And yeah, so as you can guess already, of course, I have my eyes on the user perspective. And user means not just the people who create diagrams or craft diagrams. It's also about the people who receive them or need to understand them. Then it's, of course, the visual design, because we want to have a very close design or close the gap to Fiori Horizon. And then it's about consistency for me, of course, as well. Fabian, on the other hand, has a lot of technology expertise, knows a lot about software architecture, him being an architect himself, and standards and a lot of topics that I'm not aware of. So we come together and share this. And then we call this, at this point, next-gen BTP solution diagrams. And we got started at the beginning of this year, and we are working on this throughout this year, and hope to keep it up in a setup like that. What was really important to us was to really move fast. So that's why we finally decided to use GitHub, which means it's a public GitHub page on the one hand, where you find the details, and another repository that Fabian will show us later on. GitHub really helps us to enable people to start crafting and building solution diagrams with the new guidelines right away, even outside SAP. And we use the GitHub issue feature quite a lot. We want people to give us feedback and really understand if something is missing or if we need to extend something, because it really needs to be updated every once in a while. Nothing is as constant as change. Also, this guideline will evolve. So the decision was easy. Yeah, what do SAP solution diagrams look like today? I'm not talking about BTP solution diagrams. It's even beyond that, right? It's very diverse. What can we do about it? We want to make it more consistent. So this is also what Fiori Horizon is doing. We want to make the user experience very seamless. And once the user stumbles across an architecture diagram, this flow is currently pretty much disrupted, because the current diagrams are out of date or have old styles or even free styles. And that's, of course, the main reason to move forward with the new visual design. And we started small. This means we just focused on the BTP solution diagram guideline, which was initially released in 2018 and has been a little bit evolved over time. Maybe some of you know this, maybe some of you have worked with the guideline. It was a PowerPoint file that was shared publicly for people to work with and use the shapes and the files and also the guidelines. But yeah, also in its way, very limited. So we realized there are a few gaps to fill. On the one hand, as I mentioned before, it's really about keeping up with the Fiori Horizon style, also giving a little bit more assistance with new topics like hyperscalers. And then, of course, like from a visual perspective, a lot of icons are probably not even existing like this anymore, or are outdated and therefore probably even incorrect. And a few visual enhancements. So when you look at this diagram, which is based on the old guideline, it totally works. But of course, it's a little bit old-fashioned, and also maybe we could improve a little bit the hierarchy here, and also make it probably a bit more compelling, and in the long run, even maybe nicer to build. So maybe people could even have fun or be a little bit delighted to build a diagram like that. And last but not least, and that's really important, is that we did want to go beyond PowerPoint, because we know it works for some people, but we also know there are diagramming tools out there who make this whole process easier, faster. And and there are a lot of benefits with working with diagramming tools. So that was the goal. As mentioned, only with a focus on the BTP solution diagrams at this point, because this is also our home turf. Fabian and I are in BTP. I'm in BTP experience. So of course, this is also maybe the responsibility we could take at this moment. But the idea is to collect feedback via these kind of sessions, via other channels like the GitHub page or the community, and really understand if it's sufficient and what is needed. And once it's really up to a certain standard, it can hopefully scale to other areas as well, beyond BTP. There were a few basic questions we asked ourselves when starting this year. So, for example, who is our target audience? And what are our best practices? What's out there? What can we see as a reference? What are industry standards? And then what can we actually do in 2024? And it's really important to mention here that it's our target audience is not just a technical role or person. It could be somebody who doesn't have a very deep technical knowledge, because that's what solution diagrams are for. So we need to also make sure that we cater to this kind of audience. And we looked into BTP reference architectures, which have been released in Discovery Center last fall. There's a small amount of reference architectures available, but there are many more that we looked into. Very diverse styles, again, also existing solution diagrams, which are tightly connected to the SAP Discovery Center missions, and of course, other solution diagrams beyond BTP, and put them together. And then we talked to architects and technical roles, people with technical roles, to understand more what is the common denominator and how can we develop the current guideline. And of course, we learned that we have to also look into all available standards. There is the SAP TAM standard, which is very technical, but the idea is probably to create a little bit more consistency there as well. So what does exist in TAM, and can we probably replicate this so we all kind of speak the same language? So that's why we are already in contact with those colleagues. And yeah, hopefully everything will grow together a bit more. And then, of course, we talk to our colleagues from LeanIX and yeah, everything in order to improve the guideline over time. For 2024, I mean, we made good progress by doing like a better done than perfect approach earlier this year, and just released the visual update of the guideline that was out in 2020, the last version. And we already learned a few things that are missing and we need to include. And step by step, we will include more content, but there will definitely be a bigger release with a next bigger version sometime later this year. I guess it's always helpful to visit the page frequently, or look in the community for new blog posts, so you know if there is something new included in the guideline. So what is available at the moment? The guideline itself, of course, is PDF file. You can download it from our GitHub page, but the page itself has a guideline structure as well. So you can navigate through the page and have an online version of the guideline itself as well. Then, of course, as mentioned before, the GitHub repository, which really offers you not just some content which is based on PowerPoint and some SVGs that you could use with any kind of tool, but also best practices and libraries for a new tool that we support, which is open source, which is called Draw.io. I believe some of you know it, and there will be other tools in the future that we will support as well. But this is the tool we started with because we were pretty sure that open source will reach a wide audience as well. And for Draw.io, you get shapes, you get some basic components, and even editable diagrams and reference architectures, or solution diagrams based on reference architectures that you can use and recreate or use as a base for your own diagram. And of course, the general option to give us feedback or even create a request. So in case you need a certain, let's say, icon, we have to discuss this later because we don't create icons just like that, but we have an icon designer in our team who really supports us with the design of the BTP service icons. And once we need more, we will make sure that there's a frequent release happening as well. So every 1 or 2 months, there will be a few more new icons released for the BTP service icon library, and maybe even beyond that. So we do hope that with what's out there, creating those diagrams is hopefully a little bit more easy, a little bit more straightforward, and maybe even fun. And it can become a bit better if you help us voting our very own GitHub issue with the Draw.io team up, because if we have a lot of votes there, it could be we could be able to get a native implementation of our SAP content, meaning what I just said, those icons, those basic shapes, maybe even some of the basic components, they could be available in Draw.io when you load the application, either as desktop version or browser version. If it's not available, or if this is not going to happen, you can still use it. You have to import everything manually. Maybe Fabian will show this a little bit later as well. But yeah, that would be one step less and would be really cool for us if that could happen. Yeah, I wanted to spend a few more minutes on the actual design guideline. Maybe you have seen the diagrams before. I guess if you have interest in this general session, you will have had some touch points there. So as you can see, the old diagrams were based on single lines and a few colors and outdated icons. And now with the new guideline, we have a diagram that has a little bit more hierarchy, a few more colors, the new icons, of course, the service icons. And what's really also important to mention here is that we want to make sure this diagram is understood by anyone who receives this. So imagine you get a presentation or a file where this kind of diagram is included. So it would be great if you could add a legend that really describes some of the parts, and also maybe the small descriptive text and a title, of course. This is, from our case, a recommendation. We do know that there's a lot of freedom behind solution diagrams. So nobody would really force you to use exactly what we recommend, but yeah, it would create consistency and a little bit more understanding from the people who will read this for sure. The design system for the BTP solution diagrams is an atomic design system, which means we have the very basic elements such as colors or line styles. Then we do have the molecules and everything, for example, a shape that is created from those, and then the organisms, which could be small components like a basic layer for BTP or even a whole diagram. And this is just a small preview, and you can take your time and look at the page and see what the new design elements look like. And of course, there is something else that we would really like to highlight here today, is that we introduced a granularity level, which means we want to make sure that solution diagrams are understood by everyone and also probably used in a different context. Because if you put out this complex solution diagram to a certain audience which will not understand the details, you may lose them. So for granularity level 0, this is a very abstract version, and it's really about the big picture. You would not have any protocols here, no APIs, no details that would probably confuse the reader a bit. And the reader or viewer would only have a very basic technical knowledge and still is interested in the whole setup, in this case of Task Center. So if you go to granularity level 1, it's a little bit more detailed. You can see there are colors in here. This is the authentication protocol, and we give a little bit more context here. We assume that the viewer may be involved in technical decisions and really needs this additional information. And of course, then probably there's an even deeper level where you can put everything in, like APIs, protocols, and any kind of mentioning that only a certain group of people will understand. And then, of course, you can decide which kind of granularity level you choose based on your target audience. So at this point, I guess everybody is interested in seeing the actual online version and the more interactive part of this whole session. So I'd like to hand it over to Fabian and show us the online version of the guideline.
So sound is on, camera's on. So now, okay, perfect. Yeah, right. Yeah, we want to guide you a bit. Yeah, I think the idea is to basically show you something or how we can or how you can draw your diagram. And yeah, I will start with that in the first point. So I will share my screen shortly, and hopefully you can see something. Yeah, so here is currently diagrams.net or Draw.io short. I think as a web version, you can also make use it as desktop I think it makes sense to start the last samples, which is also part of the guideline, which you see also linked on the top. We will come to this later. And for sure, we will also provide a diagram guideline, which is shown by Lisa before, also online, which is part of the repository and as a PDF, which you can then simply download and reuse in your daily work. Yeah. And finally, and this was also asked, I think, from one comment I saw, yeah, is Draw.io support? Yeah, we are aiming currently to support Draw.io first. That's currently the target idea. We will also have a bit of PowerPoint support, but it's not currently the main focus on, because we saw also some issues here, and also I think PowerPoint is maybe not the right tool to build up such kind of diagrams. And I think Draw.io or other products like, for example, Lucidchart, which we see also later on, which is also one of our focus products, or where we want to support the integration of the icons, is more helpful, especially if you draw something like that, so technical or solution diagrams called. Yeah. And finally, yeah, right, we are also asking or connecting here with the sub-community. I think it's important to get the feedback here also from you in this area. Yeah, if something is maybe good, or you can write a blog also with a new solution diagram, for example, for a nice whatever POC or end-to-end demo, or any kind of information would be really helpful. Yeah? And I think that's would be great. And yeah, as stated before, we have also the guideline online available. So we have started to write down a bit, okay, the idea. I think Lisa told about this. We will also show up here a bit, okay, the difference between TAM and solution diagrams. What is really a different data here? I think it's basically described here, and then we are going again to the granularity level. Yeah, I think what also Lisa has shown before. And in addition to that, I think basically the best entry point to get started with that is then the getting started section, where we try to highlight or guide you a bit how to can start with Draw.io to using, for example, also the libraries which we will provide here. I will show this also in the repository in some seconds. Yeah, and we are guiding here basically to the steps how to import the libraries and how to can configure the color scheme or some additional properties like, for example, the fonts and so on. Yeah, I think that's also linked as well on the documentation to Draw.io, but here are some tips for how you can do this directly in Draw.io. Yeah? Especially in the desktop version is currently here the focus of the documentation. But for sure, I think it could be also possible for the online version, but let's check that later as well. And yeah, and what we also did, and Lisa has already have an intro given here about the atomic design system, and we also providing here some information about the branded names, for example, which we want to use in the BTP solution diagrams, and also other elements like, for example, text elements, which colors you can use, and so on. I think that's all part of the diagram guideline to give you a high-level overview. We will enhance the guideline step by step in the next months, I guess. That we also provide maybe some special use cases, or maybe also the focus on broader architectures. We get also the feedbacks that maybe a layer architecture would be nice to have, maybe also security artifacts as part of an architecture in, or maybe we will incorporate it other standards like C4 as stated out from Lisa before. And yeah, that will be then enhanced as well here online. And yeah, and then we are also providing you some examples of how it looks like, for example, for Task Center in the different granularity levels. Yeah, and that's basically the idea of the diagram guideline, as talked before. Yeah, I think we have also available the PDF version, but the idea is really to have here simple or easy guideline online. In addition, we have also the PowerPoint PDF version available. And the main important thing, I think, is the GitHub repository itself. So hopefully it's working here. Okay. So we have here the GitHub repository, which you can access public, because it's running on github.com, should be able to access. And what you see then inside, for example, the asset folder, that is more or less the content which we are providing, like the diagram libraries, which we want to have here for Draw.io. So you will see here all the libraries which we are currently have available. Not only BTP service icons, also other ones. We see it also later in the diagramming tool. And for sure, we also will provide SVGs. So if you want to try it out or will enhance this maybe in PowerPoint, for example, then you can make use also of the SVGs, and then you can draw or build up the diagram maybe also easily in PowerPoint. And in addition to that, and we will also have a look on this later in detail more, is then we will also provide some example diagrams that you have maybe a quick jump start to draw your first diagram. And said this, I think it makes sense now to switch over to the live diagram session. So I need to go here. Yeah, right. And I think we have already provided throughout. So if you want, you can also do it in parallel or do it by your own later one. Also by providing an example library, which is basically the idea of about this exercise now, to build up an build work zone solution architecture based on the solution diagrams and the icons which we provide here. And all of the stuff starts right with the boxes basically. So we have the BTP global account, the blue box, we have the white box, which is sub account, and inside that we want to build up build work zones. So let's correct the name here again, and have also on top a smaller description. And the next step, and that's, I think, an important thing, especially if you're looking a bit about the BTP architecture, is also to bring some required components, especially for new components, like, for example, build work zone or task center or substart. Therefore, we have also one box which outlines then the cloud identity services. That means that we want to have also the connectivity in the sub account to sub cloud identity services, which is one of our requirements, especially for cross application scenarios. If you connect, for example, LOB solutions to, for example, build work zone, and therefore we highlight this as well. And this is basically part of our standard BTP solution diagram pattern, I would say, because as you know, also for some newer services like portfolio or the integration suite, IES is a requirement now to run the boosters, and therefore we put it in also as one of our central pieces by creating such kind of diagram. And the next thing, I think it's easily, we need to have an access. So we also provided here in this example, I think the visualization how an end user will then access the global account, the sub account in this way, and also some technical attributes, like, for example, OIDC to have here the interaction with the cloud identity service for authentication. And then we are coming really to the inner circle, basically, of the sub account. So now we are talking about the product. So we will put in now sub build work zone, which is now the idea of the solution diagram. So what we did here now is to cluster bit build work zone, because as you know, the build work zone consists of multiple capabilities, and therefore we had put it also in here. And I have also here some additional icons here. Also the user store, which is required or part of build work zone, is in. And that's the idea for this step. And in addition to that, to connect now with the backend system and also have the integration with other services, you will then use maybe other services as stated. So what we can do now is put in also additional BTP services, which you may be aware of, like build process automation, which can be used, or the apps which can be used in build work zone, or, for example, also applications which are predefined from some services, like, for example, the task center, the central inbox, which can then be integrated in build work zone. And in addition to that, for sure, also some technical services like the custom domain or cloud transport management, which is part of that, or if we want now to connect, for example, the backend system, which is the idea now to provide the full end-to-end view, is then right and now it's therefore let's give it and then we can move it also in the right direction, that we maybe go more in this direction, and then we have the connection right directly to the backend system. But that's now looks like our solution diagram. Okay, moved class and array a bit, but basically that's the idea of this little example, to build up an end-to-end scenario. You see now on the right hand side, right, the backend solutions which are connected to this solution diagram, which is part of the architecture of sub-build workzone. And I think that's is really logical from structure currently, and also I think from the visual point of view, really a good enhancement, a new development which we are providing here to have a next iteration of the BTP solution diagrams, and really helpful. And what we also did now, and you are maybe aware of that, that we also have in the Discovery Center, for example, additional reference architectures, and will have in the future additional reference architecture which are also built of the new solution diagram guidelines. So what we have currently is, I think, a lot of reference architecture already available, and you see it also here. That's a new flavor or a new design guideline is in parts adopted. I think we will also update here some reference architectures next time, that we have also the same visualization which I showed before, but that is also then used here in Discovery Center, and that is also our idea to provide here the same look and feel across our different touch points, like, for example, Discovery Center, and hopefully also in the community for some sub-blocks or missions in Discovery Center, that we have the same look and feel. And that's the idea. And in addition, maybe if you go now shortly back to Troy.io, you can use all the Troy.io, for example, locally. And if you want to do that, I think the easiest way is also to import the different libraries which we are providing, is to, for example, clone the repository, and maybe I will do this shortly. I think my internet connection is not the best, but anyway, let's try it. So you can simply clone, for example, your the repository on your local device by, for example, using Visual Studio Code here, and by doing that, it's, I think, a simple step, and then you see also, hopefully soon, the full flavor of the okay, there's support. Wait a second, should be available. Right, and now we can open also the structure or the clone which we did from GitHub, and what you now have, and that's also maybe also nice, to use, for example, these diagrams. You can really directly draw also inside, for example, Visual Studio Code. There's also a plugin available where you can also visualize or maybe also change this one, the diagrams directly in Visual Studio Code, or as stated before, you can make use also of the desktop version by importing then the libraries which we are providing here. And you see we have now some more libraries, as I think if you have looked before into the repository, you saw maybe that we have only one library called Service Icons sub-BTP. Now we decided also to provide some more libraries, also structured to the BTP pillars a bit, like AI and app dev and automation have clustered, and also some new icons, especially for integration suite. Maybe we see it also directly in Troy.io desktop. So what you can do now, basically, if you want to import these libraries, I think it's simple. It's also stated in the documentation. You can then open the library locally from your device and import this, and finally you will get then something like that. For example, here's a new integration suite icons, which is also part of one of our libraries. Then you have really access directly on a desktop version if you want, because it depends a bit on your preferences here, if you want to go with the online version or desktop. I prefer more the desktop version, but it depends really. In addition to that, I think to the service icons from the BTP, we also providing some generic icons. We saw it also as part of the diagram here, that we have also maybe some generic icons, different flavors. We have also some annotations, and we will also have, for example, a complete list of connectors, different color schemes. And for addition to that, also the sub products are part of the library. So you can really easily drag and drop then also the sub products, which are maybe part of your solution diagram and can be reused here as well. And the same as you want to highlight something, for example, a custom built application, maybe you can maybe also use other semantic and shapes which outlines and this custom built application or other highlights which are part of your solution diagram. So I think that's a good set what we have already, and as talked about before as well already, I think it's also important to get feedback. So if you see some gaps or something is missing, then please create an issue in GitHub. That would be really helpful for us to get an understanding also if it's helpful, if it's enough from icon set perspective, or is something missing. For sure, we will enhance this step by step over the next months here. But I think for the starting point, I think it's quite a good set of icons. We currently have mostly all BTP service icons in. I think some are missing, and we will update this continuously, I think, in the next months. If a new service is coming or an update will be happening, then we will also provide that. And finally, you see it also here in the BTP service icons, sub BTP are also all service icons in. So if you want to have a look on that, for example, for build code, which is a really new offering, is also available, or for example, the digital assistant services, Joule, for example, is also now in the icon. So we have now all in the big library, or as stated before, in the smaller libraries. And with that, I think we can maybe once go back to the browser, because as also talked about before, I think what we also try to support then also in the next weeks or maybe months, next month maybe, will be then also a lucid chart. So that's also our direction, especially from the commercial point of view. A customer can make use of open source software, and therefore will also go with lucid. So we have then also the capability or the option to use, for example, a lucid chart as your diagramming tool, and we will provide the same set, or mostly the same set of icons then for Troy.O that you can easily integrate or build a solution diagram then with lucid chart. And that's also the reason, because as you know, we have acquired LeanIX some months ago. Also, if you want, for example, make use of diagrams in LeanIX, both of these tools are supported currently. That's also one of the reasons where we also have the idea to support these two tools primary. Then you can also link, for example, components of your architecture, for example, in fact sheets and LeanIX and so on. But maybe we can show this also in another session. That's not part of that today. But I want only to clarify that we are working also on another tool in addition to Troy.O. And yes, we are also supporting PowerPoint, as stated before, but with a less set of icons and elements, because we see here we see more the benefit of using drawing tools like Troy.O here. And that's the idea basically why we're doing that. And that's basically, I think, the idea what I want to share. So we have still 20 minutes left, but maybe either you can also talk some words, and if not, then we can maybe open this for some questions, which we have here to answer.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Fabian. Go ahead, Lisa.
Maybe just one remark. So we were supposed to ask some questions, but Thomas was already so nice to create the poll. Maybe you've seen the poll already. We would be really happy if you could answer those questions, so we can get some answers from you. And of course, you can also get some answers from us now if you want.
Feel free to ask your questions to both Lisa and Fabian. If you want to type your question in the chat, please do so. If you want to ask a question directly to our presenters, please use the tool to raise your hand, and I'll ask and call upon you to unmute your line, and you can ask your question via audio. I don't see any new questions in the chat, but we'll just give it a moment for people to type it in if they have any questions.
I think there are some in row. I see one of the Q&A tool. I see something how to change the color schemes of icons and SVGs. I'm not sure, Lisa, if this is possible. It's more a design question.
Can you ask the question once more? It's very much, just have to find it. Give me a second.
The question was from Yayati, can we change the color themes of icons and SVGs?
Yes. No. So we provide a variety of colors, which are all based on the Fiori Horizon color palette. We, of course, do not recommend to use different colors, but in the end, if you want to recolor elements, you can do that because it will not be restricted. But it's a recommendation, of course, from the design team to use what's there. And as mentioned, as Fabian showed earlier, the variety is there. We maybe even introduce a few more colors. So that could be a way if you're missing a color. Maybe you create a request and say, look, oh, I need one more color, and maybe we can put this in the library as well.
Mm-hmm. And there's a follow-up question from Yayati. How can the icon library be used in MS PowerPoint presentations?
So all of the icons, so the actual BTP service icons, can be downloaded from the repository. There are also libraries for Draw.io, but you can also just download them as SVGs, and you can import them in PowerPoint and scale them because they're vectors, and use them the way you want. And of course, there is the PowerPoint template that we offer with all those basic shapes with the right colors and line styles and thicknesses and stuff, and the right fonts in a PowerPoint template also in the repository. So you should be able to create something in PowerPoint, and yeah, we would like you to move to one of the diagramming tools, but if you want to use it, that should be possible.
Okay, there's one from Kedar. Can we get the link to the GitHub? Maybe you can put that in for the solution diagrams. If you want to put that in the chat.
Sure. So I think Fabian shared the page.
I think we did it already, or
the top page has, yeah, the top page navigation has a direct link to the repository, but of course we can share it. No problem.
Okay, great, thank you. And then there's another question.
I shared also the link. I shared also a link to the community blog. There's also the reference to that, and also how you, for example, can execute, for example, the web version with preloaded diagrams, preloaded libraries. Maybe also helpful. Okay.
So the next question is from Malik.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, please share the links. I guess that's what you were answering. Please share the links for Discovery Center Reference Architecture GitHub. So that's going to be done, Malik. If you guys have any additional questions, I don't see any more in the Q&A.
Oh yeah, there's one more, which is the plans on creating a stencil set for MS Visio. Yes and no. So currently we believe Lucidchart is a tool we would support first, but if we get enough requests, we could reprioritize there and also support Visio. It really depends on capacity. So let us know if you need it, then we can talk about it.
Okay. And then so just one came in from SD. Does it support diagramming with AI Core yet?
Fabian. No, I don't think so, but Fabian, maybe you can add to that. Oh, is he still there? Yeah. Are you on mute? That's why.
No, I was also dropped off because my network connection is not the best. But anyway, the question about the AI Core, so basically AI Core is a BTP service. So now we need to differentiate. Well, if you want to have the icon, yeah, we have it in. If you want to have, for example, capabilities that we can maybe use, for example, ChatGPT or AI capabilities to draw on a diagram, we are looking also in that currently, yeah. But as of now, we have it not available. But in the future, I think diagram as code, for example, or something like that, yeah, that is also really interesting. We are aware of that, and we will have a look on this in the future upcoming months, yeah, to also validate that and maybe provide something. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to check to see if there's no questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So if you guys have any additional questions, this is the time to ask our two topic experts. If you have any questions around this great topic. Okay, let's see again. No questions. Oh, a new question from Tom. Any planned integrations with Lean IX?
Yeah, all right. As I stated before, as we are supporting Draw.io and also Lucidchart, and if you are aware of Lean IX, there's also the option to make use of diagrams, which are created basically with Lucidchart or Draw.io. Therefore, yeah, we can also already integrate with Lean IX. So you can, for example, link fact sheets to the diagram. I think I talked about that a bit, yeah. Yeah, and that's possible, yeah. So you can import, for example, Draw which we maybe created, and then you can link really for subscription possible.
Lisa, are you still there?
I'm still there. Was there a question?
It looks like Fabian froze.
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
bit.
I
Okay,
think
no.
the last two sentences were not able to hear you, basically.
Maybe I stopped my video, yeah. But basically, as I stated, yeah, so we can link reference also architectures which can be integrated in Lean IX to fact sheets, and that's as of now possible from and in the future I think maybe also additional features, but yeah, currently you can make use of that. Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. So let's give it a last kick at the can. If you guys have any additional questions before we sign off, we still have 12 minutes if you wanted to make use of that time to ask any questions around this topic. Okay, excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Lisa and Fabian, for an amazing session. It looks like there's a lot of people on the call that were very interested in this. Today's recording will be made available very shortly. We will be uploading this to our YouTube link, and we will have a follow-up email sent to all of you for you guys to take a listen to after this call. So maybe before we sign off, Fabian and Lisa, if you guys can just type in your contact information, like your email, in the chat, if people want to reach back out to you after the call, or if they have any additional questions. Hopefully, Lisa and Fabian have answered most of your questions, or maybe provoked a couple of new questions. Their contact information will provide you an opportunity to get back to them after this call. So thanks.
I think it's also part of the presentation. I think on the last slide, which we are also sharing on the video as the recording. Yeah, and then we
will share that as well. So we will put that up as well. So thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Please do join us again next month. We have another great mission lined up for you then. And with that, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're located. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.